Hi everyone, welcome to Mysterious 5, and today we're going to talk about decades-old cold cases that were recently solved. In the past few years, police have been using a new kind of tool to solve old cases. It's called genetic genealogy. With genetic genealogy, DNA profiling and DNA testing are done with traditional genealogical methods to determine the level and type of genetic relationship between individuals. Police use genetic genealogy to track down suspects and identify deceased individuals. In this process, unknown DNA samples found at the scene during an investigation are compared to samples in the public databases to see if it matches. Genetic genealogy sites such as GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA also allow their databases to be used by law enforcement. The investigators hope to find a person related to a suspect by this process. This allows investigators to narrow their search. Our first case, the case of Peggy Beck, is believed to be the oldest case to be solved by using genetic genealogy testing. In 1963, 16-year-old Beck was living with her parents and three younger sisters in Edgewater. She was studying in Denver's North High School. Beck was part of the Girl Scouts since 9. In the summer of 1963, she was a counsellor at the Flying G Ranch Girl Scouts camp near Deckers. On the last night of camp, Beck was sleeping alone because her tent mate Claudia was ill and in the infirmary. The next morning, Beck was found dead in a sleeping bag by Claudia. The cause of death was assumed to be natural as there was no sign of struggle or trauma. As it was thought to be a natural death, it was kept secret. Her belongings were packed and brought home by Claudia. The tent and surrounding area were cleaned. After all the girls went home, the police were called. The police took her body with the sleeping bag and discovered her leotard and underwear had been torn. After a few hours, marks developed across Beck's neck and it was concluded she was murdered. A man's skin was also found in her nails. Full autopsy results suggested that she had been sexually assaulted and then strangled to death. There were many campers nearby, but nobody heard or saw anything the night Beck was killed in a tent. Due to the packing and cleaning of her belongings in the tent area, there was very little evidence left. Police identified multiple suspects, but no one ever went to trial. There was one man, Ansel Teague, who had confessed to the crime, but his confession was inconsistent and eventually dismissed as false. The case remains unsolved for decades. In 2007, a DNA profile of the killer was created from the preserved skin found in Beck's nails and was submitted to a national database, but no match was found. About 12 years later, a more comprehensive DNA profile was created and submitted to the Denver-based United Data Connect in 2019. This led detectives to issue an arrest warrant to an 81-year-old suspect, James Raymond Taylor, because DNA of his family members matched the well-preserved DNA evidence. Taylor worked as a TV repairman and lived in Edgewater in the early 1960s. He was married at that time. It is not established if Taylor knew Becky or not, but he has been known to visit the Girl Scout camp at that time to test ham radios that he built. Taylor's family cooperated and advised that they hadn't seen Taylor since the 1970s. Mr. Taylor's last known sighting was in Las Vegas in 1976. In Las Vegas, he had an extensive rap sheet of offences dating back to the early 1970s. Nobody has seen or heard from him since 1976. It's believed he is dead. Our second case is the case of Sherry Rasmussen. In 1986, 29-year-old nurse Sherry Ray Rasmussen was living in a condo with a husband of 3 months, John Rutan. On the evening of February 24, 1986, her husband, Rutan, returned home from work to find his garage door open. There was broken glass on the driveway, and the BMW he gifted his wife on their engagement was missing. Inside, Rutten found Sherry Rasmussen's severely beaten body in their ransacked living room. There were 3 gunshot wounds on her chest and 1 distinctive bite mark on her left inner forearm. There were signs of struggle. It appeared a porcelain vase had been broken over her head before the shooting. A bloody handprint was also found next to the burglar alarm's panic button. It appeared someone has hit her on the head with the muzzle and butt plate of a gun. It was later concluded that most of the injuries on Rasmussen's body were inflicted after her death. The detectives investigating the case at the time labelled it as a botched burglary. It was suggested that maybe the perpetrators were in the process of taking electronics when Rasmussen saw them, and after dealing with Rasmussen, they fled using her BMW. As a result, jewellery placed in plain sight wasn't even touched. The only things stolen were the car and the couple's marriage certificate. Initially, Sherry's purse was also missing, but it was later found in the house's garden. The stolen BMW was also recovered a week later, unlocked with keys in the ignition. The police remained focused on the burglary theory, especially because there were reports of multiple burglaries in the same area at that time. In one such incident, a woman was assaulted and one of the 2 reported suspects was carrying a gun, possibly a .38 caliber, just like the one used in Sherry's case. Because of this report, the prime suspects were now 2 middle-aged Latino men of medium height and build. The Rasmussen family offered a reward to find the 2 suspects, but they were never found. Sherry Rasmussen's parents, Nels and Loretta Rasmussen, wrote to the then chief of the LAPD to look into Rutten's ex-girlfriend, Lazarus. But her father was told by detectives that he was watching too much television. Rutten's ex-girlfriend, Lazarus, was a cop, and just days before the murder, Sherry told her father that a lady cop was stalking her. No new lead was found, and the case went cold. By 1993, DNA technology was becoming popular to catch criminals. Sherry's father offered to pay for DNA testing on the found evidence, but police told him that they had no suspect to test. In the late 1990s, a new unit was formed by the LAPD to look through the forensic evidence of cold cases to see if they could get any new leads through DNA testing, but in this case, no new lead was found. That was until 2004, when criminalist Jennifer Francis discovered that the saliva found in the case was of a female. This alone undermined the initial burglary theory. Several years later, Francis claimed that she reviewed the case and came upon a report of a female who harassed the victim before her murder. But Francis's supervisor insisted that the woman, Lazarus, an LAPD detective, was not part of this. In 2009, crime in Los Angeles declined, and detectives looked into cold cases to increase their clearance rate. The case of Sherry Rasmussen resurfaced, and it was decided that the burglary theory was invalid and the investigation started from the beginning. Detectives now suspected that the burglary was a red herring and treated the case as a murder case. From the old case files, detectives came up with a list of 5 suspects. One of those 5 suspects was Lazarus, who was now a decorated LAPD officer in the Commercial Crimes Division. As the investigation moved forward, all possible suspects other than Lazarus were eliminated. A former co-worker of Rasmussen's was also a suspect, but was found innocent after her DNA was covertly collected but didn't match the DNA found in Rasmussen's body. At this stage of the investigation, the detectives kept the investigation a close secret because not only Lazarus, but her husband was a detective. They referred to her as number 5 to keep the secrecy. It was discovered that in the late 1980s, LAPD officers preferred a .38 as their backup or off-duty gun, as it was required that they only purchase weapons compatible with the Federal Plus P ammunition that was used in the murder. Records show that Lazarus also owned a Smith & Wesson .49-38 at that time, but reported it stolen 13 days after the murder. Sherry Rasmussen's father, Nels, told the detectives about Lazarus's continued contact with his daughter. Strangely, it wasn't mentioned in the old case files. The investigators of the case secretly collected Lazarus's DNA sample from a coffee cup she drank coffee in while she was off duty. It matched with the DNA from the bite mark on Sherry Rasmussen. Now was the time for Lazarus's arrest. It was planned carefully. Detectives who had no personal connection to Lazarus were selected for the job. The selected detectives called Lazarus from the lockup at the department's headquarters. They told her that they had someone in their custody who wanted to talk about art theft, and they needed her help. After Lazarus came, they proceeded to talk about Sherry Rasmussen's case with her.
Stephanie, I don't know if you know my partner.
Hey,
great.
Hi.
Stearns, nice to meet you.
See you guys.
How's it going?
Good.
Milling around. Well, have a seat. What this is I didn't want to bring this up in your squadron. Oh, no, it's fine. I think we're good.
I just have a quarter to let me just turn it off. You're going to bring somebody in, right?
Yeah, well, I can explain the whole
That's
thing.
fine.
I don't want to talk about this in the squadron because
that's okay.
I don't know who people are listening.
That's true.
And if we go to my side, everybody's always wondering what everybody else is
sure,
doing.
no problem.
Okay. But like we're talking about being busy and stuff, we've been assigned a case that we've been looking at.
Okay.
It's a new case, and reviewing the case, there's some notes to see as far as your name being mentioned.
Okay.
Do you know John Rutten?
John Bruton. John Rutten?
Rutten.
Oh, yeah, I went to school with him.
You did?
Yeah.
How long did you know him?
Gosh, I went to school in, let's see, went to UCLA in 1978 I started, and, met him at school at the dorms.
Were you guys friends, close friends?
Yeah, we're very close friends. I mean, what's this all about?
Well, it's a case we're working on. It involves John, and in there, some of the statements we reviewed, there's notes and stuff that he knew you and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we good friends, lived in the dorms for 2 years.
You guys lived in the same dorm?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Dykstra.
Okay. Were you guys just friends or anything else, or?
Yeah, we were good friends.
Yeah. Was there ever any relationship or anything that developed between you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we dated, I mean, what's this all about?
Well, it's relating to his wife.
Okay.
Okay. Did you know her?
Not really. I mean, I knew that he got married years ago.
Did you ever meet her?
God, I don't know.
Do you know who she was or anything?
Well, let me think. God, it's been a long time ago. I may have met her. Geez.
Yeah. Well, let me see. Let me ask you. You said you dated John. How long did you guys date?
I mean, are you guys? Is this something? I mean, you said I was going to interview somebody about art, and how you guys are.
Here's
I mean,
Stephanie. Here's the situation. Is basically, we knew that this when we saw this in this chrono that maybe there was some relationship there. That's what the chrono seemed to indicate, and we didn't want to come up to you at your desk and ask those kinds of questions or do anything. You know how up there people can see what's going on if you go into an interview room or people are in there getting supplies.
Okay.
So we wanted to afford you some privacy, some confidentiality to talk about this because we thought it might be, something, you're married to someone else, obviously, and so forth, and that you may not want to, talk about these things in that setting where someone, we don't want the rumor mill or gossip or any of that kind of stuff to start.
That's fine. I mean, God, that's been a million years ago. I mean, what year is it now? 2009? I mean, I graduated in 82, yeah. We dated. I dated other guys. I'm sure he dated other girls.
Had you ever met his wife?
I may have.
Do you remember her name or anything, or? Or what she did for a living, or where she worked, or anything about her?
Well, I think I'm going to say that I think she was a nurse. I mean, I don't, again, I mean, what, I don't understand why you're talking about some guy I dated 1,000,000 years ago.
Well, do you know what happened to his wife?
Yeah, I know she got killed.
Do you remember her first name?
Shelly, Sherry, I don't know, something maybe, like I said, it's been so many years, and
from all the years, as far as you can remember, do you remember ever talking to her?
Well, I said earlier, I mean, I may have, I may have talked to her.
You mentioned a hospital, maybe. You may have talked to her at a hospital.
Yeah, I may have, and I'm like, why are you calling me if you're either dating her or living with her or married to her? Because I honestly don't remember the time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, come on, knock it off. And now I'm thinking I may have gone to her and say, hey, you know what? Is he dating you? He's bothering me. And so I'm thinking that we had a conversation about that. 1 or 2 maybe. I don't even know that I knew where they lived. That's what I'm saying. If I knew where they lived and I'd been there, if it was for something social, I would. And I can't see how many times I saw her face to face. He lived on Roscoe. Did I ever see her there? I don't know. I mean, I may have seen her at his apartment on Roscoe.
Mm-hmm.
I may have met her there. I mean...
But you didn't have any issues with her, right?
No, I mean, obviously, if he was dating me and dating her, I probably said, hey, pick or something,
Fair.
back
That's
then.
fair.
I can't say that we ever screamed or, I'm crazy.
But you're always kind of like real, I mean, you seem kind of bubbly.
Oh, people think I'm really hyper, but I can get upset, and then I forget 5 seconds later, how guys razz you and you go, I don't know, it's like I said, this stuff's been so long ago, I'm sure as soon as I walk out of here, I'll go, oh shoot, 25 things I'll remember,
But you'll call us, or you'll just come over to our desk and
yeah,
tell us.
I don't know what else you need to know, like I said.
Some of Sherry's friends said that you and her were having a problem because of the John situation.
Well, number one, I don't know who her friends are, because again, I don't recall if he did tell me where he met her. I don't know even who these friends are. A problem.
Well, that's what I'm reading, is that you guys had problems with each other and words were being exchanged, and it's all relating to John.
You know what? I can't say.
You can't say?
No, that doesn't even ring a bell.
So, it seemed like, you would recall something if somebody's going off on you, right?
I would think. I would think.
Well, on some of the, on this case, this occurred in '86, right? Detectives processed the scene, things of that nature. They did fingerprints and all that stuff. You know the standard stuff. You've been doing this longer than I have.
Well, I don't know about that. I got 26 years on, going on 26.
19, so. But, as they processed everything, they did the best they could at that time, and they looked at a lot of people and different things in this case. And you're right.
If you guys are claiming that I'm a suspect, then, I got a problem with that.
Okay.
Okay? So, if you're doing this as an interrogation, you're saying, hey, I'm a suspect. Well, now I got a problem with, now you're accusing me of this? Is that what you're saying? We're
trying to figure out what happened, Stephanie.
I'm just saying, do I need to get a lawyer if you're accusing me of this? You know.
You don't have to. I mean,
I'm
you're here of your own free will. I mean,
no, I know, but
I mean, you're not under arrest. You can walk out whenever
you can leave
feel
whenever
like.
you like.
Well,
But-
I'm trying to give you some background of how I knew him, and now you're telling me that somebody's saying that we had this big old fight, and I don't even know what you're talking about. And I don't want to get in trouble for something that I didn't even do, or you're saying I did something.
Okay.
Yeah, we understand.
I mean, how would you guys like it if the tables were turned on you?
I understand. No.
No, that's what we're telling you. I mean, you're free to go whenever you want. If this makes you uncomfortable and you want to,
now you're starting to make me uncomfortable.
The thing is, I mean, detectives did what they could at that time on the crime scene. Okay, and the burglary thing you're talking about, that is an angle that they looked at. I go, but now we're looking at everything else on the case. Because nobody was ever arrested on the case.
I don't know that or not.
Okay. Now, what we'd like to do is, obviously you know about all the DNA stuff and things of the nature that, gets done on cases nowadays. If we asked you for a DNA swab, would you be willing to give us one?
Maybe. Because now
Yeah, because
now I'm thinking I probably need to talk to a lawyer.
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
because I know how this stuff works, okay? Don't get me wrong, you're right, I have been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
And I wish I had been recording this because now it sounds like, there's, you're telling these people say I'm fighting with her, and now it sounds like you're trying to, I've been doing this a long time.
yeah.
We know.
Okay? And now it almost sounds like you're trying to pin something on me.
No,
now
but-
I got that sense.
Well, what it gets to on these cases, and you know it as well as I do, our job is to identify and eliminate
I
suspects.
can't believe this.
So, if we ask you to the point to give us a DNA sample, a buccal swab, so we can identify or eliminate you, would you be willing to do that?
Maybe.
Well,
Because I know this,
well, that's where we're at to. I mean, because right now, from looking at the evidence, it's it's possible we may have some DNA at the location,
that's great.
and we're going to do what we can to try to put this thing together. And your name's in the book. These people are pointing at you for whatever reason,
I don't know why.
And-
That's just crazy. I mean, that's absolutely crazy.
and it would be irresponsible on our part not to look at it.
I know. You guys have to do your job,
And-
and I guess I'm going to have to contact somebody. So,
That's fair.
I mean, because I know how this stuff works. I
Sure.
mean, I just can't believe it.
I mean, we understand that. I mean, if we were in your position, I mean, we would feel the same way.
I just can't even believe it. I mean, it's just, I mean, I'm shocked. I'm really shocked that somebody would be saying that I did this. I mean, we had a fight, and so I went and killed her. I mean, come on.
Well,
That's,
okay.
She was immediately arrested afterwards and brought back.
this is absolutely crazy.
Have a seat, Stephanie.
This is insane.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. Stephanie, you know you have the right to remain silent. Do you understand?
Yes,
Anything you say may be used against you in court. Do you understand?
yes,
You have the right to the presence of an attorney before and during any questioning. Do you understand?
yes.
If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you free of charge before any questioning if you want. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you want to talk to us right now?
No.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
This
then.
is crazy.
Okay.
This is I'm like in shock. I'm totally in shock.
Once in custody, police searched her house and car. They found a journal in which she wrote that she was in love with John Ritton and was angry over his engagement. The journal was from the mid-1980s. Surprisingly, her computer search history revealed that she looked up Ritton several times in the late 1990s. So why did she do it? In 1978, when Lazarus was a UCLA freshman, she met John Ritton at a party. Soon, they started casually dating. They were in an open relationship, and their relationship continued after graduation. In the 1980s, John Ritton met 27-year-old Sherry Rasmussen. They became lovers and got engaged within a year. Lazarus was devastated after learning this, and she begged John not to marry Sherry, telling him she loved him. She even went to visit Ritton at his condo, and they had sex. Years later, Ritten would say he did this to give her closure. During the couple's engagement, Lazarus visited their home several times. Sherry even asked Ritten if this relationship with Lazarus was truly over, to which he assured her it was. Despite John's testimony, Lazarus even went to Rasmussen's office and told her that things between her and John were not over, and revealed that the couple was still having sex. She said that if she can't have John, no one else can. Even the couple's marriage didn't stop Lazarus from stalking and harassing Sherry Rasmussen. Ritten told his wife to ignore her, hoping Lazarus would get over it. On February 24th, 1986, out of jealousy, Lazarus committed the crime and made it look like a robbery gone wrong. Lazarus was convicted in 2012 and is currently serving a sentence of 27 years to life in the California Institution for Women in Corona. She'll be eligible for parole in 2034.
People of the State of California versus Stephanie Eileen Lazarus. Case number BA 357423. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Stephanie Eileen Lazarus, guilty of the crime of murder of Sherry Rasmussen in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony, as charged in Count 1 of the information. We further find the murder was of the first degree.
And now for our final case. The case of Susan Galvin. In 1967, 20-year-old Susan Galvin lived in the Lower Queen Anne neighbourhood, adjacent to Seattle Centre. She was a civilian records clerk and worked at the Public Safety Building in downtown Seattle. On the night of July 9th, 1967, she failed to show up to her overnight shift. On July 12th, Galvin was reported missing. A day later, on the evening of July 13th, her body was found in the Seattle Center parking garage at 300 Mercer Street. The garage had been closed for several days, and it was reported that Galvin used it to get access to an elevated walkway above the street from where she used to get in the bus that took her to work. After an autopsy, it was found that Galvin had been raped and strangled to death. Fingerprints were collected from the crime scene, and other samples were collected as well. Investigators used the techniques available to them at the time. Dozens of people were questioned. There was only one potential suspect, a clown who was seen with Galvin just before her body was found, but he was never charged due to lack of evidence, and the case went cold. That was until 2002, when Seattle homicide detectives reviewed the case and submitted found evidence to the Washington State Patrol Crime Laboratory, or the WSPCL, for DNA analysis. WSPCL scientists were able to recover DNA, but no match was found in the FBI's combined DNA index system. Detective Norton began reinvestigating the case in 2017. He tracked down the clown who was seen with Galvin, but his DNA failed to match the DNA which was recovered from the crime scene. In July of 2018, the DNA found was submitted to the Paraben Nanolabs, a company which specialised in DNA technology. The DNA profile was reformed and searched in GEDmatch. After the search, Paraben genealogist C.C. Moore found ancestral links to the found DNA profiles. After analysis, Frankie Whippich emerged as the main suspect. Whippich worked general labour and security jobs and was known to visit Seattle Centre at the time of the murder. Norton contacted a relative of Whippich who was still living in the area and collected a DNA sample. Rachel Forbes, a latent print examiner, found a print recovered from the crime scene. She was able to match the print with the palm print of Whippich, which was taken when Whippich was arrested in 1971 for larceny. After having enough evidence, the remains of Whippich were exhumed and a DNA sample was taken from them. It was confirmed that the DNA found at the crime scene matched the DNA of Frank Whippich. The use of genetic genealogy in an investigation is a highly debated topic. Do you think the use of genetic genealogy as a forensic tool violates a citizen's right to privacy, or is it just another effective way to solve a case? Comment below. As always, thanks for watching. If you find this interesting, then be sure to subscribe to the channel because you don't want to miss what's coming next.